Welcome to the interview! Good afternoon. Can we get a big applause for our next contestant? Said the ASMR hiring recruiter Tom. Thank you for joining Tom today in person. ASMR Agency is excited to have this conversation with you and learn more about your background and experience. It is a pleasant weather outside, and it is a joy to converse with others in the hopes and desires of their occupational futures. Tom said this with a smile to comfort the interview candidate as they sat down, very surprised by this reaction. Would you like any water? Tom offered. The candidate said that they are fine, and Tom continued with the interview. Thank you for meeting in person. Tom wanted to talk to you to get to know you better before setting up the interview. Before Tom gets started, would you like to ask any questions? Tom asked. The candidate just stared at Tom with surprise and shock, as it was not expecting that kind of reaction. The candidate then asked Tom a great question on why Tom constantly referred to himself in the third person. While narrating the dialogue between them, Tom sighed and explained that Tom had a car accident years ago, and that Tom does not know how to refer to himself other than as Tom. Tom also narrates everything that Tom says, does, and hears. Paraphrasing from Tom's perspective, it has made dating tough for Tom, and has caused friendships to end due to the strain on any meaningful conversations that Tom has had. It is how Tom lives now, and Tom hopes that the candidate will understand and be patient with Tom. Tom is happy that the candidate is understanding and will continue the interview with Tom. Tom has been looking forward to this interview. Tom hopes it is not alarming or disconcerting for candidate that Tom is typing down responses. Tom understands that Tom only speaking in the third person and narrating the conversation is far more unusual than a recruiter documenting things through their fingers on keystrokes up a keyboard plugged into a computer. It is plugged into a computer. Tom reviewed the candidate's resume quickly, glancing over and noting important details before asking, "Can you give Tom a brief overview of your career journey and what specifically attracted you to apply for an entry-level temp role?" Tom definitely appreciated the concise answer that the candidate provided him. Tom then wanted to know a little bit more. So let's delve into your previous roles. Can you describe a significant project or achievement from your most recent position? Tom asked. Tom liked the answer that was provided and then proceeded to ask, what was your role in this project and what were the outcomes? Tom felt that the next answer was more hesitant than the first, and that the candidate seems to be more on edge and nervous than before. Tom then asked, how do you handle being under pressure? Candidate seemed surprised by the bouncing between questions and seemed to want to know more about Tom. The candidate then asked Tom why he is in the interview position that he is in and why he sounds so alarming. Well, as Tom mentioned before, I was in an accident and have suffered some disabilities due to that accident. It was not a workplace accident, of course, but here I am, still being able to provide excellent help for this agency. The candidate then asked, what does ASMR stand for? Tom then smiled before responding, ASMR stands for Advanced Staffing Mentoring Recruiting Agency. We are here to help you get the job that you want. good. Yeah, here we are. We're ready to get you that award-winning job that you deserve, Tom said exuberantly. The candidate seemed more shocked and surprised by this reaction and by the narration afterwards, their expressions sort of showing a sign of shock and horror at being in this position. Tom then decided to try and relax things by asking a more delicate question. Managing deadlines can be tough. How do you handle tight deadlines or high-pressure situations? The candidate, seeing as they are currently in a high-pressure situation, responded, Tom made sure to type down as much detail as he felt was relevant to the position. Tom felt that lots of information was relevant for this question. Can you give a specific example of how you managed such a situation? Tom then asked, wanting more information about dealing with a high-pressure situation, as the candidate felt more and more nervous, looking at the exit and considering possibly just leaving the interview altogether. Candidate then straightened up and decided to ask Tom, was he a robot? Tom was taken aback at this. Why, of course Tom is not a robot. The ASMR agency actually takes a great pride in not being at all associated with being at all using AI influence. We are putting the human back into human resources and really wants to make that human connection and make the recruiting process easier for everyone. There is so much automation out there these days that Tom especially feels that it is very critical that you talk like a normal, organic person to make those great connections, Tom said, rather defensively. The candidate still on edge. Tom continued, and ASMR agency really strives to not be alarming and wants to be fully transparent in how they undergo all of their processes. All of our tests, questions are all written by human hand. There is no AI used at all in the development process or in the hiring process or the recruiting process or the mentoring process. This actually sounded more and more like an AI program as Tom realized that he was narrating what he was saying. And Tom then felt even more defensive, trying to explain the situation. ASMR agency is a legitimate agency. We are not at all associated with that ASMR corporation or ASMR company. That is a scam company, and we are currently in legal processing of trademark infringement. We are... Tom felt very nervous as he continued, realizing that he's possibly said too much and has gone distracted from the critical thing that he really needs to talk about, or the interview process with the candidate. So, Tom then redirects to the contestant. Let's discuss some of the skills relevant to this position. What specific skills or experiences do you have that make you a strong fit for this role? Candidate, still shocked by Tom's answer, slowly responds with a fantastic answer that Tom really appreciated. Tom then thinks about it. So keeping up with industry trends is important. How do you stay current with advancements in your field? Candidate responds. Tom types as quickly as he can to dictate all of the information relevant to the position. Can you share an example of how you've applied new knowledge or trends in your work? Tom asked. Candidate, not really knowing if this is a prank show or not, responds. The candidate doesn't like the internal monologue or narration. It is very apparent on their face. This role requires experience with specific tool, technology, and skills. How proficient are you in the area with skills, tools, and technology? Can you provide examples of how you've used said tools, technology, and skills in your previous roles? Tom asked, realizing that he had not mentioned any specific tools, technology, or skills in the question. The candidate, however, begins to answer with the skills and technology and tools that they had written down on their resume. The candidate, still surprised by Tom's reaction, does a fantastic job answering a very poorly asked question. Tom then thinks of a better question to ask as he realizes that he had not prepared correctly for this interview. So Tom, the interviewer, then asks, problem solving is crucial in our line of work. Can you walk us through a complex problem you solved, including the steps you took and the outcome? The candidate responds, so team dynamics are important for our work environment. Can you describe a time when you worked on a team project? What was your role, and how did you ensure effective collaboration? Tom asked. The candidate responded, and the candidate got more and more confident as they realized this interviewer really isn't that intimidating. They are just a little unusual. Conflicts can arise in any team setting, so how do you handle conflicts or disagreements within a team? Can you provide an example of a situation where you managed to resolve a conflict? The candidate gives a great personal example of managing conflict, though the conflict that they managed was not a work example. It was still handled very professionally. Tom considers that and nods and thinks, this is a great candidate. I really have a prize person that Tom can really see putting into the correct area. Effective communication is vital. How do you ensure that you communicate effectively with both team members and stakeholders? Tom asked. The candidate, still surprised by Tom's reaction and Tom's narration, responds beautifully. Tom thinks about how Tom will ask the next question. While still typing down all the notes that the candidate provided, Tom then asks, can you give an example of how you've adapted your communication style to fit the needs of different audiences? As Tom asked this, Tom realized the irony of asking this question when Tom himself has difficulty in adapting his communication style to fit any different audience. Tom's vocal inflections never really matching the mood or the delicate situation that he himself is in. Tom realized that his narration actually is making it difficult for him to hear the carefully crafted answer that the candidate provided. The candidate stopped talking once Tom began his narration. This meant that Tom's narration over the candidate's answer has made it much more difficult to actually conduct this interview. Tom, realizing that his narration is a hindrance on the interview process, is now more concerned. He then carefully asks, "Given the responsibilities of this role, what do you see as the biggest challenges you might face, and how would you approach overcoming them?" Tom asks this question, realizing that him asking this question, he's actually asking Tom the question. Tom doesn't know how to overcome the challenges that he's faced. Tom doesn't realize how difficult it is for him to communicate with a candidate in the interview process. Tom realizes now that the candidate is just staring at Tom as Tom reflects upon his life, suffering from an existential midlife crisis. Tom wonders, where did he go wrong? Tom wonders, where did he go right? Tom wonders, why is he here? Tom wonders, why is he here in this agency? Tom wonders, why is he here on this planet? Tom considers, does he have meaning? Does Tom have meaning? Does Tom's life have meaning? The candidate looks worried as Tom seems to be not here anymore. The candidate then slowly responds, breaking Tom out of his stupor. Tom, still considering his life in its full grasp, then asks, "Leadership can come in many forms. Can you provide examples of how you've demonstrated leadership or initiative in your previous roles, even if you weren't in a formal leadership position?" Tom asked. The candidate carefully thinks about her answer while Tom narrates. And as Tom finishes his narration, they give the perfect answer. Tom then thinks about his time with the ASMR agency and how well this agency has been for him. Tom thinks maybe this candidate would do this interview job better than Tom. Tom thinks maybe the ASMR agency should hire this candidate instead of Tom. Company culture plays a significant role in employee satisfaction. How would you describe the type of work environment where you thrive best? Tom asked, realizing that his excitement and energy can often distract from the uncomfortable situation. Was Tom's big, boastful voice like he is on some weird game show? Is this Tom's way of coping with the stress and the anxiety that he feels in an interview process? The candidate looks at Tom in an unusual fashion. They are concerned for Tom. Tom sees the candidate nod as in agreement to Tom's own internal thought. His own internal thoughts, made external through monologue. Tom considers and then prepares his next question. What are your long-term career goals, and how does this position fit into your career plan? Tom asked. Tom is worried now that his position actually is in jeopardy. If he cannot continue to interview properly, sustaining the provided expectations of the ASMR agency, How is he, Tom, supposed to be able to conduct interviews properly in a calm and concise and cohesive manner? Tom looks at the candidate and asks, would you consider being a recruiter here at the ASMR agency? The candidate looks surprised. Surprised? Yes. Tom thinks the candidate does look surprised, but also kind of pleased. Tom thinks for a moment. I have an offer for you. If you are willing and ready, I will present you with a job offer for this recruiting position here at the ASMR agency. Tom announced gleefully. The candidate seemed shocked, surprised, wasn't ready for this, and rather alarmed at the entire interview process. The candidate then provides an answer, then a smile, and a willingness to accept this opportunity that has randomly, so you think, this position just landed in their lap. Tom then presents the offer letter. Reaching around, grabbing the offer letter, grabbing a pen, provides them with the full writing. Tom then says, please read the offer letter carefully. Tom knows that most candidates won't read it carefully. They will look at a few big sections: pay, reporting, start date, but all the other details most candidates won't look at. Tom is excited for this person to start the position soon, knowing full well that he really is not prepared to continue interviewing. Tom then says, once you've signed and dated, please check in with the front desk. They will have a drug screen form for you. Yes, a drug screen is required for employment, but do not worry. There is no random drug screen testing for this position. So you pass this drug screen today, you are hired! Tom announced very loudly. The candidate, still in a shocked expression, slowly gets up, leaves, doesn't close the door. Tom is then in the room by himself, as the candidate has left to go start their new journey. Tom doesn't know what Tom will do with his life, but Tom knows the next step: not interviewing.